Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something that probably hits close to home for all of us, that gut feeling, that moment when you're absolutely sure about something and then, well, sometimes reality has other plans. Imagine our friend Alex, a seasoned stock trader. He'd been on this incredible winning streak, a real high, right? Convinced he had this golden gut for the market, an almost infallible intuition, he thought.
Yeah, that feeling of being unbeatable.
Exactly. So with this unwavering self-belief, he goes all in on a risky stock tip. Putting a huge chunk of his capital down, declaring 100% confidence in a colossal payoff. He felt it deep down. He knew this was it.
Okay, the setup for a fall.
Totally. But then within hours, unexpected, catastrophic news hits the market. The stock just takes a sudden, brutal nosedive. Alex watches his substantial investment just vanish. A devastating, irrecoverable loss.
Oof.
But the thing that truly stunned him, though, he simply never saw it coming. The very idea that this outcome was even possible was completely alien to his rock-solid conviction.
Right, Alex's story. It's a really classic example, almost archetypal, you might say.
Of misplaced overconfidence.
Exactly, misplaced overconfidence. And, for him, this wasn't just about the money he lost. It was actually a profound neurological event happening in his brain.
Neurological? How so?
In the immediate aftermath of that stock plummet, within the intricate neural networks of his brain, there would have been a distinct, undeniable spike of neural error signals. Think of this spike like an internal alarm, maybe a visceral uh-oh that would have jolted his system.
Okay.
And it forces him, really, to confront a singularly harsh and uncomfortable truth. In that critical moment, he was far more sure than he was right.
And that, folks, is precisely what we're dissecting in today's deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
We're zeroing in on a critical area of cognitive science, metacognition and error monitoring. We're going to unpack in surprising detail what happened within Alex's mind when his confident predictions spectacularly failed. We'll explore the sophisticated mechanisms our brains employ to monitor errors, delve into the subtle yet potent ways confidence can betray us, and, most crucially,
the practical part.
Right. Provide you with concrete, actionable strategies designed to help you recalibrate your self-assurance to decisively avoid the perilous trap of being confidently wrong.
Our journey today will navigate the intricate landscape of our internal cognitive machinery. We'll begin by exploring the brain's fundamental internal monitoring systems, those neural sentinels constantly assessing our thoughts and actions.
Okay, basics first.
Exactly. From there, we'll establish a precise definition of confidence calibration and dissect its most common pitfalls, which are, honestly, far more prevalent than most people realize.
I can imagine.
Then we'll unearth the deeper cognitive roots of why our confidence so often goes astray, examining the fascinating interplay of our internal thought processes and inherent biases.
The why behind it.
Precisely. Our exploration will also include a look at individual differences, acknowledging that while the core mechanisms are universal, their application varies widely from person to person.
Right. Not everyone's the same.
Definitely not. We'll then delve into the truly fascinating computational models that researchers propose for how our brains actually compute confidence. It gets a bit mathematical, but it's fascinating.
Okay, I think our listeners will appreciate that level of detail.
I think so too. And finally, and perhaps most practically, we'll deliver tangible, actionable strategies that you can immediately apply to train your own confidence calibration.
Okay, the takeaway?
Right. And this isn't merely about avoiding financial missteps like Alex's. It's about honing a fundamental, indispensable aspect of your decision-making prowess, enhancing your critical thinking, and ultimately refining your ability to navigate a complex, uncertain world with appropriate and accurate self-assurance.
So let's cast our minds back to Alex, staring at that nose-diving stock. In that agonizing moment, something profound shifted in his brain. His internal monitoring system, that silent sentinel of our cognitive processes, undoubtedly kicked in.
It had to.
Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is this monitoring system, and where in the brain does this immediate, visceral uh-oh signal truly come from?
Well, the primary orchestrator of this internal alarm system is a critical region deep within the brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC.
ACC, got it.
The ACC is often, and quite aptly, referred to as the brain's error monitor. It's a highly active region that tends to flare with activity, specifically when things go awry, or even when there's a perceived conflict in our ongoing thoughts or actions.
So it senses when things aren't right.
Exactly. A highly influential theoretical framework known as the conflict monitoring theory posits that the ACC's primary role is to detect these conflicts or mistakes as they occur within our cognitive processing.
Conflicts like expecting one thing and getting another.
Precisely. When it identifies such a discrepancy, for instance, when an expectation, like Alex's certainty of a stock rise, directly clashes with an unfolding reality, like the stock's sudden plummet the ACC doesn't just observe, it actively signals when more control is needed.
Okay.
It's essentially the brain's internal flag raiser, alerting other areas that something isn't aligning as expected, and that executive resources need to be deployed to address the discrepancy.
So it sounds the alarm.
It sounds the alarm, and this specific error signal, this neural uh-oh that the ACC generates, is so distinct and measurable that it has a well-known signature in EEG studies, which measure electrical activity in the brain.
Ah, the brainwave stuff.
Right. It's called the error-related negativity, or ERN.
ERN.
The ERN is typically observed as a sharp negative going voltage deflection in the brain's electrical activity, occurring very rapidly, often within 50 to 100 milliseconds after a person commits an error or detects a conflict.
Wow, that's fast.
Incredibly fast. It's a remarkably precise neural indication that something went wrong, a clear electrophysiological fingerprint of internal error detection. What's particularly compelling and directly relevant to our discussion of confidence is that extensive research has demonstrated that error detection and confidence judgments share neural substrates.
Meaning they use the same brain bits.
Pretty much. It means that the brain regions and computational processes involved in recognizing an error are remarkably similar and often overlapping with those involved in forming our judgments of confidence. Both processes rely heavily on similar ACC-driven computations, highlighting an intimate, interconnected relationship between knowing we've made a mistake and understanding how sure we were, or perhaps should have been, about our initial decision.
That's fascinating. So the ACC is like a smoke detector, but an alarm going off is one thing, actually doing something about it is another. Does the ACC just act alone, sounding the alarm in isolation, or does it call for backup from other regions to help us adjust and learn?
That's a great question. The ACC, while crucial as the early warning system, certainly doesn't act alone. Its primary function is indeed to alert, to flag a problem, but it then needs to engage other parts of the brain for the necessary behavioral adjustments.
Right, it needs help.
Exactly. When the ACC detects an error or a conflict, it effectively sends a critical signal to the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, often abbreviated as the DLPFC.
DLPFC, another acronym for us.
Yes. This region, the DLPFC, is widely recognized as the brain's executive control center. It's responsible for higher-order cognitive functions like planning, decision-making, working memory, and, crucially, adjusting our behavior based on incoming information.
The brain's CEO, kind of.
You could think of it that way. So the DLPFC steps in to adjust behavior in response to the ACC's warning. For instance, in Alex's case, after the catastrophic loss, the ACC's error signal would have spurred the DLPFC to urge Alex to pause and reevaluate his strategy.
Okay, so it triggers a rethink.
Precisely. This isn't just a passive observation of error. It's an active recruitment of cognitive resources aimed at learning from the mistake and preventing its recurrence. To offer a clear analogy,
Analogies help.
think of the ACC as the smoke detector in your house. Its job is to detect smoke, right? Which is analogous to a conflict or error.
Okay.
Once it detects smoke, it doesn't put out the fire itself, does it?
No.
No, it immediately alerts the fire chief. And the DLPFC is that fire chief, dispatching resources, your attention, your analytical capabilities, your memory of past strategies to deal with the problem.
Ah, I like that. ACC spots the smoke. DLPFC sends the fire trucks.
Exactly. This dynamic interplay between the ACC and the DLPFC constitutes the mind's incredibly sophisticated early warning system, actively recruiting higher-order processes to ensure we not only detect errors, but also effectively learn from them and ideally avoid them in the future.
Okay, so just to quickly recap this first part, you're telling us that when we make a mistake, or even just think we might, our brain's ACC lights up. It sends out this uh-oh signal, the ERN. That's right. Which then gets the DLPFC, the Executive Control Center, involved to help us adjust our behavior, maybe change strategy. And this whole error detection system is intimately linked to how we form our confidence judgments in the first place.
Exactly. It's a fundamental feedback loop for self-correction.
All right, let's do a quick mega recap for this chapter, like flashcards for our listeners.
Good idea.
First up, ACC, anterior cingulate cortex, that's the brain's error monitor, right? Detects conflicts and mistakes.
Correct. The smoke detector.
Then the ERN Error-related negativity. That's a specific neural uh-oh signal the ACC generates, the alarm sound.
Yep, that fast electrical spike.
Third point, shared neural substrates. Basically, error detection and confidence judgments use similar brain machinery centered around the ACC.
Very important link, yes.
And finally, DLPFC, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. The executive control center, the fire chief, alerted by the ACC to adjust behavior and help us learn from errors.
You got it. That's the core mechanism.
Okay, so we've walked through the brain's alarm system. Now, let's zoom out a bit and focus on the outcome of all this. Alex's catastrophic stock market fiasco perfectly illustrates what we call confidence miscalibration. It wasn't just a bad decision. It was a decision made with an unearned certainty. So what exactly does confidence miscalibration mean in the realm of psychology, and how do researchers specifically define overconfidence?
Right. Well, at its core, overconfidence is rigorously defined in psychology as any instance where an individual's subjective confidence, so how sure you feel, exceeds its objective accuracy, so how often you're actually right.
Feeling sure then you are right. Simple enough.
Pretty much. Let's consider the ideal scenario for a moment. If any of us were perfectly calibrated, then any event or answer we felt 100% certain about would, without fail, occur or be correct 100% of the time. That's the gold standard.
Which sounds unlikely for most of us.
Extremely unlikely. The sobering reality for most humans, extensively documented in behavioral science, is that our judgments, even those we hold with what feels like absolute, unshakable 100% certainty, are empirically often wrong about 20% of the time.
20% wrong when we're 100% sure. Wow.
Yeah. It means that when we are completely convinced, our actual accuracy tends to hover around 80%. Classic studies, the bedrock of this field, have repeatedly shown people claiming to be absolutely sure about answers that, when objectively checked, were correct only 80% of the time.
So there's a built-in overconfidence gap.
A substantial, consistent gap between our internal feeling of confidence and external, verifiable reality.
Yes. And does this happen evenly, or are there situations where we're more prone to it?
Good question. This landscape of human overconfidence isn't uniform. It has discernible patterns. Overconfidence, for instance, is particularly common when we're engaging with difficult tasks or venturing into unfamiliar domains.
Right, when we don't really know what we're doing.
Exactly. In these scenarios, we tend to significantly overestimate the breadth and depth of our knowledge or capability. Conversely, the less common but equally interesting phenomenon of underconfidence, that is, being less sure than we objectively should be, often paradoxically emerges in easier tasks.
Underconfidence on easy stuff, that seems weird.
It does, but it's a well-established observation in calibration research known as the hard-easy effect. When a task is genuinely simple and our accuracy is exceptionally high, maybe over 90%, some individuals err on the side of caution, expressing less confidence than their actual performance warrants.
Okay, so we overestimate the hard, underestimate the easy.
Often, yes. Now, to ground this in some compelling population-level data, a recent and quite extensive survey conducted in the UK by the Behavioral Insights team provided remarkable insights.
Okay, what did they find?
Their findings revealed that a striking 81% of people exhibit overconfidence on general knowledge questions, meaning they confidently asserted answers that were, in fact, incorrect.
81%. That's most people.
The vast majority. In stark contrast, only a meager about 3% consistently underrate themselves.
Wow, only 3% underconfident.
Right. This data paints a clear picture. The vast majority of us, roughly 4 out of 5 individuals, are at least somewhat miscalibrated, and the prevailing tendency is to be typically too confident in our judgments. Only a tiny minority seem to have their internal confidence closely matched to external reality.
That's quite a statistic. Did they look at different groups? Like, does it change with age? I know our listeners are interested in those kinds of demographic or historical trends.
They did, and when we examine generational differences, a fascinating pattern emerges. The survey found that older adults showed higher rates of overconfidence compared to younger adults, and consequently, fewer well-calibrated individuals.
Older people were more overconfident.
Yes. For example, approximately 84% of baby boomers, individuals aged 60-78, exhibited overconfidence on the general knowledge quiz, whereas this figure was comparatively lower, around 75% for young adults.
Why would that be? More experience should mean better calibration, shouldn't it?
You'd think so, but it's complex. The survey suggests that while older individuals may often feel a robust sense of certainty due to their extensive lifetime of experience, some of that knowledge might be outdated or perhaps remembered with an unwarranted degree of certainty.
So confidence based on potentially outdated info.
Possibly. Interestingly, younger people in the survey were a bit more likely to know what they don't know, which contributed to their slightly better calibration. They seemed more aware of their knowledge gaps. Yet it's crucial to add a nuance here, linking back to our brain discussion. While confidence bias indeed tends to increase with age, the brain's fundamental error detection ability via ACC signals might not decline as dramatically.
So the alarm system might still work, but we override it with confidence.
That's one way to think about it. It suggests a more complex picture of aging metacognition, where different aspects of self-monitoring are affected in varied ways over the lifespan. The feeling of confidence might drift more than the basic error detection.
So what does this all mean for us beyond just trivia results in demographic surveys? Is being overconfident simply a quirky personality trait that's harmless enough, or does it have tangible, real-world impacts that we should genuinely be concerned about?
Oh, it's absolutely critical to understand that being overconfident isn't just a harmless quirk. It has real consequences, and often very significant ones.
Like Alex losing his money.
Exactly. Poor calibration fundamentally means thinking you're right when you're wrong. This pervasive misalignment can lead to costly errors, as we vividly saw with Alex's failed trade, but the implications stretch far beyond the stock market.
Where else?
It can result in profoundly bad decisions in business where confident but flawed strategies are pursued without sufficient critical examination. Or in medicine, where misdiagnoses or incorrect treatment plans might stem from a physician being overly certain in an uncertain situation.
High stakes there.
Definitely. Conversely, while less common, underconfidence also carries its own set of drawbacks, potentially causing missed opportunities. This could manifest as not trusting a correct hunch that could have led to a positive outcome, or perhaps refraining from taking a necessary, albeit intimidating, step despite having the underlying capability. Maybe not applying for a job you're actually qualified for.
Right, playing it too safe.
Exactly. Therefore, the overarching goal isn't to be either maximally confident or utterly uncertain. Rather, it's to find that happy medium confidence that accurately reflects your capability.
Confidence matching reality.
Precisely. This understanding, this recognition of the need for precise alignment between what we believe and what is true, is the essential first step towards achieving better calibration in our decision-making. So, to summarize this section, we've established that human overconfidence is widespread, often leading us to be 100% sure, but empirically 20% wrong.
That 80-20 rule seems important.
It's a good benchmark, yeah. It impacts decision-making significantly and varies across age groups, with older adults tending to be more overconfident, though the brain's core error monitoring may remain robust.
Right. And the key takeaway here is that calibrated confidence isn't just a nicety. It's a necessity for avoiding costly mistakes and seizing opportunities. It's about making better decisions, ultimately.
Goodly.
Okay, and another mega recap for Chapter 2. Flashcard time.
Let's do it.
Overconfidence. Simply put, subjective confidence exceeds objective accuracy. Like feeling 100% certain, but only being 80% correct.
Yep, the core definition.
Underconfidence. Less common? Maybe seen more in easy tasks due to the hard-easy effect.
Right, the flip side.
Prevalence. That UK survey showed 81% exhibit overconfidence, while only about 3% are underconfident. Most of us lean towards too much certainty.
A striking statistic.
Age differences. Older adults tend to show higher rates of overconfidence, maybe due to experience combined with outdated info.
Yeah.
But their basic ACC error detection might hold up.
A nuanced picture, yes.
And consequences. Big ones. Overconfidence leads to costly errors in many fields. Underconfidence means missed opportunities. Calibration is key.
Absolutely. Well summarized.
All right. We understand what confidence miscalibration is and where it shows up. But now, let's go deeper into the cognitive roots. Why are we, as humans, so inherently prone to this miscalibration? What exactly is going on inside our brains that leads our confidence so consistently astray, often despite obvious evidence to the contrary?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting, psychologically speaking. One of the profound insights into why confidence goes wrong lies in a fundamental cognitive shortcut. Our brains tend to use internal consistency as a proxy for correctness.
Internal consistency,
Yeah.
meaning if our thoughts line up.
Exactly. Psychologist Asher Coriat's influential self-consistency model provides a compelling explanation for this. According to Coria, when we're faced with a question or a decision, our cognitive system subconsciously engages in a rapid, repetitive process of sampling our memory and knowledge multiple times.
Like asking yourself the same question over and over really fast.
Kind of, yeah. It's like an internal polling mechanism. If all these internal samples converge and consistently point to the same answer or conclusion, our brain generates a strong feeling of confidence. We feel highly certain because our internal data all aligns.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense. If everything inside agrees, you feel sure.
Right. But the critical flaw, as Coria meticulously demonstrated, is that this reliability check is not the same as truth.
So you can be consistent, but consistently wrong.
Precisely. You could, quite paradoxically, be consistently wrong, yet still feel incredibly confident. The brain isn't asking, is this answer objectively correct? Or does this align with external reality? Instead, it's asking, am I getting the same answer repeatedly from my own internal resources?
That you see the trap.
It leads to a profound cognitive pitfall known as the reliability-validity discrepancy. We implicitly trust information that is internally consistent, even if that consistent information is factually incorrect. And this consistent but incorrect internal state produces unwarranted overconfidence.
So like with Alex.
Exactly. Consider Alex's situation.
Yeah.
He had repeatedly seen his strategy succeed in a bull market. This consistent positive feedback, this internal reliability, bred a strong sense of confidence.
Even though the market changed.
Right. Even though it was by no means a guarantee of future correctness, especially when market conditions changed. His brain essentially equated past consistency with future validity, a dangerous leap.
Okay, so self-consistency is one culprit. What else is at play?
Another significant contributor to this miscalibration is the powerful influence of our prior beliefs about our own ability.
How good or bad we think we are at something.
Exactly. If you firmly believe you're an expert in a particular domain, or conversely, if you are convinced you're terrible at something, this pre-existing belief system profoundly skews your confidence, often independently of your actual performance.
So your self-image overrides reality.
It can, yes. A recent experiment provided striking empirical evidence for this. Participants were divided into groups and engaged in a training task. One group was deliberately given false, positive feedback, leading them to believe they were exceptionally skilled.
Priming them to feel confident.
Right, priming them with high self-belief. Another group received negative cues, fostering a lowered sense of self-belief. Later, when all participants were tested on the same task without any further feedback,
What happened?
those who had been primed with high self-belief reported much higher confidence in their answers. Crucially, their actual performance on the task was no better than the other groups.
Wow, so confidence wasn't tied to skill at all in that case.
Not directly, no. Similarly, those who were led to have lowered self-belief reported underconfidence, despite performing just as well. This experiment powerfully demonstrates how confidence can drift due to mindset. What we inherently think about our competence can bend our self-assessments independently of reality.
That sounds like it could explain things like imposter syndrome, too.
It certainly connects. And it helps us understand phenomena like the Dunning-Kruger effect, where individuals who are unskilled in a particular area tend to dramatically overestimate their competence, mistakenly believing they are doing well.
Because their prior belief is, I'm generally competent.
Perhaps. Or they lack the metacognitive skill to even recognize their incompetence. Conversely, highly skilled experts can sometimes be harder on themselves, underestimating their true proficiency. In essence, in the absence of clear, objective, and consistent feedback, our brains often default to these deeply ingrained prior biases about our own capabilities, leading to skewed confidence.
That's incredibly insidious. So even if we intellectually grasp these mechanisms of miscalibration, isn't there another even deeper layer of bias that actively prevents us from recognizing our own errors and our own biases? I'm thinking of the classic, I'm not biased, you are situation.
You're absolutely right to point to that. This brings us to a particularly pervasive and, frankly, quite ironic meta-bias. The blind spot bias.
The bias about bias.
Exactly. This isn't just a bias in judgment. It's our bias about bias itself. It's the deeply ingrained human tendency to readily perceive cognitive biases in others while simultaneously denying or minimizing their presence within ourselves.
We see the speck in their eye, ignore the log in our own.
Beautifully put. The data supporting this is almost universally consistent. Nearly everyone believes they're less biased than average. Consider a large study involving 661 adults where an astonishing 99.8% insisted they were at least as objective as others.
9.8%.
Seriously.
Seriously.
Out of that entire group, only a single individual genuinely admitted to being more biased.
One person.
One person. This demonstrates that this universal blind spot is incredibly powerful. The belief that I'm not biased, only other people are, creates a formidable barrier, making it exceedingly difficult to correct our own overconfidence, precisely because we fail to recognize that we have it.
It protects the overconfidence.
It absolutely does. What's even more concerning is that individuals who exhibit a large bias blind spot are statistically the least likely to learn from feedback or advice.
Why is that?
They tend to ignore others' input and actively resist debiasing training, primarily because they assume their judgment is already fine. Why fix what you don't think is broken?
Right.
Alex, in his pre-catastrophe phase, might very well have dismissed any warnings from colleagues or cautionary market indicators, thinking, they're worrying too much, I know what I'm doing. That's the bias blind spot in action.
So how do we fight that?
Overcoming this deeply entrenched blind spot requires a significant degree of intellectual humility and a conscious commitment to active self-reflection, a willingness to acknowledge the uncomfortable yet liberating possibility that I could be wrong. It's about actively seeking out reasons why you might be biased.
Okay, let's pause for a micro recap here. To sum up this section, our confidence can be sabotaged by our brain's preference for internal consistency over actual accuracy.
Right, the self-consistency trap.
By pre-existing beliefs about our own abilities, whether they're inflated or deflated.
Those powerful prior beliefs.
And crucially, by our tendency to see bias in everyone else but ourselves, that meta-bias, the bias blind spot. It's a complex web of internal shortcuts and blind spots that often lead us astray.
Precisely. Understanding these deep cognitive roots is absolutely essential for truly recognizing why we are confidently wrong so often, and thereby gaining the leverage to begin correcting it.
All right, mega recap for Chapter 3, the Why Confidence Goes Wrong chapter. Flashcards ready.
Ready.
First, self-consistency model, Coriat. The brain equates internal consistency of thoughts with correctness. Even if you're consistently wrong, you feel confident. That's the reliability-validity discrepancy.
Correct. Consistency isn't truth.
Second, prior beliefs. What you already think about your own ability, like being an expert or being terrible, strongly skews your confidence regardless of actual performance. Helps explain Dunning-Kruger.
Yep. Mindset matters, sometimes too much.
Third, bias blind spot, the big one. We think we're less biased than others. This meta-bias stops us from recognizing our own flaws, hindering self-correction, and making us resist feedback.
The bias that protects other biases. Nicely put. That covers the main reasons our confidence gets derailed.
Now, while it's clear that everyone, to some degree, exhibits metacognition, that incredible ability to think about our own thinking, are there significant individual differences in how well we do it? Is metacognition a skill that can be honed, or is it something we're just fundamentally born with, a fixed trait?
That's an excellent question, and the answer is, well, it's a bit of both. While the basic neural machinery for metacognition, such as the ACC's error monitoring, is universal, there are indeed notable individual differences in how effectively we monitor and control our own cognition. Several key factors contribute to this variability.
Oh, okay, like what?
Well, let's elaborate first on the effects of age on calibration, which we touched on earlier. As we discussed, calibration generally tends to worsen with age, at least when it comes to general knowledge domains.
Right, the UK survey data.
Exactly. Recalling that survey, the data clearly showed that older adults were most overconfident. Remember, approximately 84% of baby boomers showed overconfidence compared to about 75% of young adults.
And the reason might be confidence based on potentially outdated experience.
That's a strong hypothesis. Older individuals frequently feel sure due to their lifetime of experience, which is a valuable asset. However, the caveat is that some of that knowledge may be outdated or remembered with too much certainty, leading to miscalibration in a dynamic world.
While younger people were maybe more aware of not knowing.
Exactly. They were a bit more likely to know what they don't know, contributing to slightly better calibration. But again, the nuance is important.
The ACC difference.
Right. While confidence bias appears to increase with age, concurrent research suggests that error detection ability via ACC signals might not decline as dramatically. So the basic error signal might remain robust, even if the subjective confidence judgment becomes less accurate. Different aspects age differently.
Okay, so age is one factor. What else influences these individual differences? This raises an important question that I know our listeners, particularly those interested in the biological underpinnings of behavior, will find compelling. Is there a biological predisposition to how confident we are? Does genetics, in some fundamental way, play a role?
That's where things get really fascinating, because early research indicates a genetic component to metacognitive bias.
Really? It's in our genes.
It appears so, at least partly. This isn't just about environmental factors or upbringing. There seems to be a biological predisposition. A 2023 study provided compelling evidence linking specific gene variants to higher confidence levels.
What kind of genes?
Specifically, certain variations in genes related to serotonin, a key brain chemical involved in mood and cognitive function, have been identified as being associated with a higher confidence bias.
So your serotonin genes might make you more overconfident.
The study found that individuals carrying specific versions of these genes tended to display higher average confidence, greater metacognitive bias in cognitive tasks. It suggests a truly intriguing possibility that some individuals are, at a biological level, predisposed to be either more self-assured or, conversely, more prone to doubt, simply based on their genetic makeup.
Wow. Are other genes involved?
Yes. Other genes related to dopamine, another crucial neurotransmitter involved in reward and motivation, are also actively being investigated for their potential roles in influencing metacognitive accuracy and bias.
So genetics plays a part. Does that mean we're stuck with our predisposition?
Not at all. While this genetic insight certainly doesn't doom anyone to a fixed level of overconfidence or underconfidence because, as we'll discuss, training and experience play a significant role, it undeniably opens an interesting window. It suggests that a fundamental part of our ability to self-monitor might be heritable, subtly affecting our baseline confidence tendencies.
Okay, so genetics sets a baseline, maybe. But can we improve? You mentioned training.
Yes, absolutely. And this is the good news, particularly for those of us eager to improve. Metacognitive skills can be trained at least to a degree.
How? What's the key?
The bedrock of this training lies in consistent experience and feedback, which are absolutely critical. Consider professions where the stakes are incredibly high and immediate. Unambiguous error feedback is paramount.
Like pilots.
Exactly. Think of pilots who meticulously follow checklists and receive constant feedback on their performance, or seasoned stock traders who have weathered and survived significant market crashes. These environments often foster better calibration over time because the consequences of miscalibration are so direct and severe.
Learning the hard way. Sometimes.
Often. In more controlled experimental settings, targeted training has yielded mixed but promising results. One study, for instance, found that when participants were given performance-based rewards for accurate confidence judgments, their metacognitive performance significantly improved over multiple sessions.
So rewarding good calibration helps.
Yeah, it seemed to. This essentially incentivized individuals to be honest and accurate, not just about getting the right answer, but about the certainty of their answer, training them to be more sensitive to their own internal uncertainty.
You said mixed results.
Right. It's important to note a nuance here. A subsequent follow-up replication study cast doubt on how robust this effect is, suggesting that some earlier improvements might have been due to confounding factors, such as uneven reward conditions.
Ah, science in progress.
Always. So while the jury is still somewhat out on the precise, optimal methods for metacognitive training in a lab, outside the lab, simply getting feedback on decisions can help profoundly.
Real-world feedback.
Exactly. A prime example comes from elite forecasters participating in prediction tournaments. These individuals dramatically improve their calibrations simply by continually checking predictions against outcomes and then diligently adjusting their future confidence levels accordingly.
Learning from hits and misses.
Precisely. As Dr. Mark Egan of the Behavioral Insights team succinctly noted, there's solid evidence that it's possible to become better calibrated, even if it goes against our natural human tendencies. The core principle is adopting practices that compel us to confront our successes and our failures, and to directly link them to our initial levels of confidence.
Okay, so age, genetics, training, and feedback. Any other factors influencing these individual differences?
Yes, several other elements can play a role, though perhaps less definitively. Interestingly, general intelligence or raw cognitive ability does not in itself guarantee better calibration.
Being smart doesn't mean you're well calibrated.
Not necessarily. Studies consistently find that even very smart people exhibit the bias blind spot and overconfidence unless they actively practice metacognitive reflection. Intelligence is a tool, but you have to use it to examine yourself.
Makes sense. What about personality?
Personality traits also play a role. For example, qualities like humility or openness might help individuals accept errors more readily, fostering a more adaptive learning process. However, no single definitive trait ensures perfect calibration.
And culture.
There may also be cultural differences at play, with some research suggesting variations in overconfidence across cultures. For example, certain studies found Western participants to be slightly less overconfident on average than East Asian participants in specific tasks, potentially reflecting differing cultural norms around expressing certainty. Still early days on that research, though.
Interesting. And expertise. Does being an expert help or hurt?
Finally, domain expertise is, of course, significant. We generally tend to be better calibrated in domains where we possess true, deep knowledge. Yet, paradoxically...
There's always a paradox.
Right. Even highly experienced experts can become overconfident too, often succumbing to the I've seen it all attitude, where their vast experience leads to a false sense of infallibility in novel or changing situations.
The expert trap.
Exactly. So in sum, while our fundamental metacognitive machinery, like the ACC for error monitoring, is universally present in the human brain, the effectiveness with which we utilize this machinery is a dynamic interplay, profoundly shaped by our age, our biological predispositions, our cumulative experience, and our prevailing mindset.
Okay, quick micro recap. So individual differences in confidence aren't just about personality quirks. They're influenced by age, with older adults tending towards higher overconfidence. And surprisingly, even by our genes, suggesting some biological predisposition.
Right, the serotonin and dopamine links.
But crucially, training and active feedback offer significant pathways for improvement, regardless of our inherent tendencies or even our general intelligence.
That's right. It's a dynamic interplay between our biology and our learned behaviors, offering both a challenge and a clear path forward for personal growth in metacognition.
All right, flashcard time for Chapter 4, Individual Differences.
Let's do it.
Age. Older adults generally show higher overconfidence, especially in knowledge domains, though their core error detection, ACC, might remain relatively stable.
Got it.
Genetics. Early research links specific gene variants, like for the serotonin transporter 5-HT-TLPR, to higher confidence bias. So there's likely some biological predisposition.
Fascinating, yeah.
Training and experience, absolutely crucial for improvement. Direct feedback on decisions is key for real-world calibration, even if lab studies on specific training games show mixed results. Experience matters.
The most actionable part, yes.
Other factors, things like general intelligence, personality traits, humility helps, cultural background, and domain expertise all play a role. But none guarantee perfect calibration without active reflection and feedback. Even experts can be overconfident.
Excellent summary. Covers the key variables.
Now, let's get truly into the mechanics, delving into the computational underpinnings of confidence itself. For our listener, who I know appreciates the underlying logic, the math, the philosophy behind these cognitive processes, how does the brain actually compute confidence? Are there different theoretical frameworks or mathematical models for understanding this internal calculation?
Yes, this is indeed a fascinating and deeply complex question that lies right at the intersection of neuroscience, psychology, and computational theory. It's really about modeling the mind.
Okay.
When researchers attempt to model how the brain arrives at a feeling of confidence, two major theoretical frameworks stand out, each offering a distinct lens through which to view this process. Think of them as the signal detection framework versus the Bayesian theory of confidence.
Signal detection versus Bayesian. Okay, let's break those down. What's the signal detection idea?
Let's begin with the signal detection framework. In this view, confidence is fundamentally tied to the strength of evidence that the brain has accumulated.
How strong the signal is.
Exactly. And how far that evidence is from a specific decision threshold. Imagine Alex again, making his stock decision. His brain is constantly processing an internal evidence variable, a composite of all the market indicators, news, personal intuition, everything he's drawing upon.
Okay, a running tally of evidence.
Kind of. If this internal evidence for, say, a buy decision is well above the threshold required to actually make that yes decision, then he would report correspondingly high confidence.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Strong evidence, high confidence.
Right. Conversely, if the evidence is only barely above that threshold, indicating an ambiguous situation where it's a close call, his confidence would naturally be lower.
So confidence tracks distance from the decision line.
Precisely. Essentially, confidence can be mathematically modeled as a function of the distance between the chosen option's perceived evidence and the internal cutoff point for making that choice. This concept aligns well with a measure often used in psychology called meta-D, which quantifies how well someone can discriminate between being right versus being wrong about their own judgment. Signal detection models often assume that we employ relatively simple heuristics or mental shortcuts, such as more evidence equals more confidence, and that we might make some adjustments for expected noise in our sensory or cognitive input.
So it's not necessarily a perfect calculation.
No, definitely not. Indeed, experimental studies modeling human confidence across different sensory modalities have found that people do generally take evidence, strength, and uncertainty into account, which supports this framework. However, these studies also consistently show that humans do not do so in a fully optimal way. We're not perfect evidence integrators.
So
For instance, one such study found that the best-fitting model for human data was a scaled evidence model. This suggests that people temper their confidence based on the strength of their sensory evidence, but crucially, also by accounting for sensory uncertainty rather than perfectly calculating probabilities. Interestingly, a pure Bayesian model actually fit the data worse in that study, implying humans might rely on simpler approximations.
So the simpler model fit better there.
In that specific context, yes. In short, the signal detection perspective views confidence as a post-decision signal, meaning it's derived from the very same information that was used to make the initial decision itself, albeit with some added internal noise or variability.
Okay.
Under this view, any errors in confidence, whether it's over or undershooting, can stem from this inherent noise in our internal systems or from biases in how we weigh the evidence available to us.
That makes sense. Confidence based on how strong the signals are with some noise. But what about something more probabilistic? Like a poker player constantly updating their belief about odds with every card dealt. That feels different. Is that where the Bayesian idea comes in?
Exactly. The Bayesian framework for confidence is indeed more probabilistically oriented, treating confidence as an explicit probability. It's essentially the brain's continuous dynamic estimate of the likelihood that the decision is correct.
So confidence is the probability estimate.
In this view, yes. In a Bayesian model, when you encounter new evidence, say a new piece of financial news about a stock, your brain doesn't just register it. It actively forms a posterior probability distribution over what the true state of the world is.
A distribution, like a range of possibilities.
Precisely. This distribution represents the brain's updated belief about the underlying reality, incorporating both prior knowledge and the new evidence. Your confidence, then, is the integral of that distribution in favor of your chosen answer.
Okay, that's getting mathematical. Simplify.
Okay. To simplify, it's your brain's way of saying, given everything I know right now, there's an X% chance that I'm right about this.
Got it. Confidence has a percentage chance.
Exactly. An ideal, perfectly rational Bayesian machine would set that X value precisely equal to the true success probability. Now, while real human brains obviously have computational limitations and inherent noise,
We're not perfect Bayesian machines.
definitely not. But there is compelling evidence that we do represent probability distributions in neural activity. For example, a groundbreaking 2022 neuroimaging study utilized fMRI to decode probability distributions from people's visual cortex activity as they were making decisions.
They could see the probabilities in brain scans.
They could decode patterns that represented them, yes. This study found that when those decoded distributions were narrower, indicating greater certainty or less spread in the brain's probabilistic estimate, people consistently reported higher confidence.
Wow. Narrower distribution, higher confidence.
Exactly. Furthermore, activity in specific brain regions like the insula and the dorsal ACC, our familiar error monitor, were found to track the shape of the probability distribution and directly correlated with reported confidence in line with Bayesian predictions.
So the brain activity matches the Bayesian model.
It strongly suggests that our subjective sense of confidence is not just a feeling, but it reflects the brain's implicit probabilistic calculations. Another related study described confidence as a noisy reliability estimate, effectively the brain attempting to guess how reliable its own decision is.
But noisy, meaning not perfect.
Right. And sometimes your brain isn't even sure about how unsure it is. We call that meta-uncertainty. It's like having a blurry picture and also being uncertain about how blurry it is.
Uncertainty about uncertainty. Okay, my head hurts a little.
It gets deep. Under Bayesian accounts, miscalibration, like Alex's overconfidence, can be elegantly explained by wrong priors or incomplete knowledge.
Wrong starting assumptions.
Exactly. For instance, if your brain holds an overly narrow prior distribution about the volatility of a stock market, it will inherently output overconfident probabilities. Indeed, researchers have successfully shown that known confidence biases, such as pervasive overconfidence in difficult tasks, can be reproduced by Bayesian models that have certain miscalibrated priors, or models that mistakenly treat unseen situations as more familiar than they really are.
So Bayesian models can actually predict our biases.
They can, yes. This Bayesian approach is very powerful for explaining nuanced behaviors, but it operates under the assumption that the brain is in some sense near optimal given its underlying assumptions or the limitations of its internal models.
So we have signal detection models focusing on evidence, strength, and thresholds, and Bayesian models emphasizing explicit probabilities and updating beliefs. Which framework is the correct one? Are we fundamentally signal detectors, or are we Bayesians in our neural computations? Or maybe something else?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? In all likelihood, the most accurate representation involves elements of both. It's not necessarily an either situation, but rather a sophisticated integration.
A hybrid model.
Probably. We humans do appear to use rough heuristic measures of evidence, much like the signal detection models propose, that generally correlate with the true probability of an event. Quick and dirty estimates.
Okay.
At the same time, our brains undeniably maintain uncertainty representations, as Bayesian theory posits, but these representations are not always perfectly accurate or optimally integrated.
So we do probabilities, but maybe not perfectly.
Exactly. Practically speaking, for our purposes, confidence can be effectively interpreted as the brain's ongoing estimate of decision reliability. How reliable does the brain think its own output is?
Okay, that's a useful way to think about it.
If we possessed perfect, omniscient knowledge of our own internal neural noise and an infallible model of the external environment, then that internal reliability estimate would, in fact, precisely equal the true probability of being correct, which is the theoretical ideal of a Bayesian agent.
It's a perfectly calibrated being.
Right. Therefore, deviations, whether they manifest as overconfidence or underconfidence, fundamentally occur when our brain's internal model of itself, its own computational limitations, or its model of the external world, is somehow off or inaccurate.
Like Alex's model of the market.
Precisely. Alex's miscalibration could be explained through a Bayesian lens. He might have misestimated the volatility of the market. This would constitute a wrong prior in Bayesian terms. This misestimation could then lead his subjectively felt 99% confidence to be, in objective reality, only, say, 70% justified. That's a Bayesian explanation. His internal probabilistic model was flawed. Meanwhile, on simpler tasks, such as basic perceptual judgments, people often demonstrate a remarkable ability to gradually calibrate their confidence with practice. This suggests that, given sufficient and consistent feedback, the brain can indeed adjust its internal probabilistic model, subtly refining its estimates of certainty.
So we can learn to be more Bayesian, maybe.
We can certainly improve our calibration, which involves making those internal estimates more accurate. The crucial upshot for us is this. Confidence isn't magic. It's not some mystical intuition. It's a tangible, internal, mental calculation that can be more or less accurate.
Right.
Understanding precisely how that calculation works, and critically where it tends to fail, is absolutely key to systematically improving our decision-making in every aspect of our lives. So, in essence, to quickly recap this part, signal detection models view confidence as driven by the strength of evidence relative to a threshold, using heuristics.
Evidence strength driving confidence.
While Bayesian models see it as the brain's explicit probabilistic estimate of correctness based on continually updated probability distributions.
Confidence as a probability number.
Right. Both frameworks are crucial for understanding how our brains compute confidence, and our real-world confidence likely involves elements of both, serving as an estimate of decision reliability, albeit a noisy one.
And where that estimate goes wrong, we end up with miscalibration, with all its costly consequences. It's a fascinating blend of neuroscience, sophisticated mathematics, and even a touch of philosophy in our everyday thoughts and actions.
Exactly. It really brings together different levels of analysis.
Okay, mega recap for Chapter 5. Computing confidence, flashcards.
Go for it.
Signal detection framework. Views confidence as a function of evidence strength relative to a decision threshold. Involves heuristics, noise, and post-decision assessment.
Right. Evidence strength and distance to threshold.
Bayesian framework. Treats confidence as the brain's implicit estimate of a decision's probability of being correct. It involves forming posterior probability distributions based on evidence and priors.
Confidence is a probability calculation, yeah.
Synthesis. The reality is likely a mix. Both frameworks contribute. Confidence acts as the brain's estimate of its own decision reliability, but it's prone to error if the brain's internal models of itself or the world are inaccurate.
Well put. It's an estimate, and estimates can be wrong. That's the core idea.
So we've broken down what confidence is, explored its neural underpinnings, examined the cognitive shortcuts that lead it astray, and even delved into the mathematical models that attempt to explain its computation. Now, for the crucial part, the actionable advice. How can we, like Alex, avoid the trap of misplaced confidence? What are the concrete, practical steps we can take, starting today, to recalibrate our self-assurance?
Right, this is where the rubber meets the road. The overarching answer lies in actively practicing metacognition. It's about actively monitoring our uncertainty and learning from our errors.
Thinking about our thinking and checking our certainty.
Exactly. It's not just about getting the right answer, but about understanding how sure you are and being willing to adjust that certainty based on feedback. I want to propose a simple yet highly effective exercise inspired by the rigorous practices used in prediction markets and professional forecasting tournaments.
Okay, sounds promising. What is it?
Our first practical exercise is what I like to call the personal prediction market game.
A game. I like the sound of that. How do you play?
Here's how you play. Start by making a series of small, everyday predictions, and for each one, crucially, assign a specific probability to your belief that it will occur or be true.
Like putting a percentage on it.
Exactly. These don't have to be grand, complex forecasts. They can be as mundane as, I'm 90% sure I'll get to work on time today. Or a trivia question, I'm 70% confident that the capital of Australia is Sydney. Or perhaps a simple personal guess about who will win a small office pool. The key is to choose events where you're not absolutely 100% certain, but where you have a genuine subjective probability.
Okay, make predictions with probabilities, then what?
The essential step is to write them down with your confidence estimate right next to them. This act of externalizing your prediction and its associated confidence is critical. It makes it concrete.
Got it. Write it down.
Later, at the appropriate time, check the outcomes. Did the event happen or was your answer correct? Then comes the scoring part.
Scoring. How does that work?
For each prediction, you're going to score it using the Brier score. Now, don't worry too much about the exact math formula.
Okay, good.
The key thing is, the Brier score is what's called a proper scoring rule. It gives you immediate, concrete feedback on your probabilistic accuracy. It essentially penalizes you heavily for being confident and wrong, and rewards you for being appropriately uncertain. The closer your stated probability is to the actual outcome, which is either 0 for didn't happen or 1 for did happen, the better your score.
Lower scores are better.
Exactly. Lower scores mean better calibration. A perfect score is 0, for example. If you confidently said you were 90% sure about something, but then you were wrong, outcome 0, that's a relatively high error score. But if you said you were 60% sure and it happened, outcome 1, that's a much lower and thus better error score.
I see. It measures how well your probability matched reality.
Precisely. Over many predictions, averaging your Brier scores will provide a robust quantitative reflection of how well you align confidence with reality, with a lower average indicating greater calibration.
Did you track your average Brier score over time?
Yes. After consistently doing this for enough trials, perhaps 20, 50, or even 100 predictions, you will almost certainly notice patterns emerge in your own calibration.
Like realizing you're always overconfident at the 90% level?
Exactly. You might observe, wow, when I say I'm 90% sure, I'm actually only right about half the time. I clearly need to dial down my certainty for that level of confidence. Or conversely, you might discover, I often give a conservative 50% confidence on things I consistently get right. I can actually afford to be bolder and more assertive in those instances.
So it gives you personalized feedback on your own calibration curve.
Perfectly put. One study, focusing on a similar calibration training game, empirically showed that people very quickly adjusted their confidence when seeing their scores, with initially overconfident individuals learning to utilize more nuanced probabilities instead of simply defaulting to extreme 0% or 100% certainty.
People learned quickly from the scores.
They did. You can even gamify this and make it a social activity. Create a list of true-false trivia questions with friends or colleagues, or make weekly predictions about sports outcomes or even local weather, and then compare who scores best not only in terms of accuracy, but more importantly in terms of calibration.
Accuracy versus calibration, that's a key distinction.
It is. This seemingly simple exercise is incredibly powerful because it trains the valuable skill of knowing what you know and don't know with much greater precision.
Okay, the personal prediction market game sounds incredibly insightful. But beyond just a formal scoring game, how can we integrate this mindset of calibrated confidence, maybe that Bayesian thinking, into our more informal, everyday decision-making? How do we embrace this, say, over the course of a day?
That leads perfectly to the second powerful practical tip. Embrace the power of Bayesian thinking in daily life.
Okay, Bayesian thinking. What does that mean practically?
This isn't about running complex statistical models in your head, obviously. It's about adopting a fundamental Bayesian mindset, which means you should treat your confidence as an evolving probability, not a fixed all-or-nothing stance.
Confidence as a probability slider, not an on-off switch.
Exactly. This subtle mental shift is profoundly transformative. For example, instead of Alex mentally rigidifying his belief into, this trade will win, I'm absolutely certain, a true Bayesian approach would prompt him to think, I estimate a 90% chance this trade will win and a 10% chance it will lose.
Acknowledging the uncertainty explicitly.
Precisely. This seemingly minor linguistic and conceptual adjustment is immensely powerful because it immediately encourages contingency planning. If you explicitly acknowledge a 10% chance of loss, your mind instinctively begins to ask, what will I do if the 10% occurs? This fosters a proactive approach to risk management rather than being blindsided.
Planning for failure.
Or planning for the less likely outcome, yes. It also instills a crucial sense of humility. It's perfectly acceptable, even desirable, to have high confidence when it's well-founded, but the Bayesian mindset encourages you to always retain that 10% or whatever small percentage of doubt that keeps you vigilant.
Keep a little doubt alive.
Exactly. This sliver of doubt prevents hubris and maintains an open mind. Furthermore, if new evidence emerges, such as unexpected bad news about the stock Alex invested in, the Bayesian mindset compels you to update your confidence rather than dismissing it.
Don't ignore inconvenient data.
Right. You don't ignore information that contradicts your initial strong belief. Instead, you consciously adjust your probability estimate in light of the new data. This is essentially practicing real-time calibration, being willing and able to adjust your degree of belief instead of rigidly locking into a binary, I'm right or I'm wrong view.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Think in probabilities, update with evidence. Now, finally, given how universal and pervasive the bias blind spot is, making it so difficult to see our own errors, how do we actively combat that specific insidious tendency? What's the practical strategy for overcoming our own inability to see our own biases?
Yeah, that's the really tough one, isn't it? The crucial step to combating the bias blind spot is to deliberately ask others for input and consider why you might be wrong.
Seek outside perspectives.
Exactly. This requires a conscious act of humility and an active effort to seek out dissenting viewpoints. It can be as straightforward as, before finalizing a significant decision, listing out reasons why your own judgment could potentially be biased, or proactively soliciting a colleague's critique of your plan.
Play devil's advocate with yourself, or get someone else to do it.
Precisely. This external validation or critique forces you to confront perspectives you might otherwise ignore. If Alex, for instance, had engaged a trusted friend or mentor to play devil's advocate, to ask him pointed questions like, what are you ignoring here? What could possibly go wrong? What if you're actually wrong about this?
Yeah.
Those internal ACC error signals, that subtle uh-oh that his brain likely generated before the nosedive, might have been heeded before a catastrophe rather than after. This type of proactive questioning can trigger the error monitoring system effectively.
So external challenge can amplify the internal alarm.
It can help you pay attention to it, yes. Additionally, consistent engagement with mindfulness and reflection exercises can also significantly help.
Mindfulness. How does that connect?
By regularly taking time to observe your own thought patterns without judgment, you can increase insight into your own thinking, which can gradually help to reduce unwarranted confidence and make you more aware of your inherent cognitive biases. It helps you catch those automatic assumptions. So, in summary, the path to a more accurate and effective decision-making mind lies squarely in consistent metacognitive training. Whether through structured personal prediction market games,
Scoring your predictions.
adopting the flexible and adaptive Bayesian mindset in your daily thoughts,
Thinking in probabilities.
or actively checking your bias blind spot by seeking external critique and self-reflection. These practices are instrumental in improving your confidence calibration.
It's like tuning an instrument.
Exactly. Just like a finely tuned scientific instrument, a calibrated mind doesn't jump to unwarranted extremes. Instead, it carefully measures evidence, thoughtfully processes information and, most importantly, consciously acknowledges uncertainty where it exists. By learning to truly listen to your brain's internal error signals, that subtle, instinctive twinge of doubt emanating from your ACC when something feels off, and by continuously, deliberately aligning your subjective confidence with objective reality, you can avoid being caught off guard, like our friend Alex, the overconfident trader.
Hopefully.
Instead, you will evolve into the decision maker whose certainty is earned, whose judgments are robust, and who possesses the profound wisdom and strength to genuinely say, I'm not sure. Let's find out precisely when it truly matters most.
All right, last, we'll recap Chapter 6.
Yeah.
Practical takeaways. Flashcard style.
Final round.
Personal prediction market. Make probabilistic predictions with percentages, write them down, check outcomes, and score with a Brier score. Lower is better. Get feedback to adjust your confidence level.
Train by tracking, yes.
Bayesian mindset. Treat confidence as an evolving probability. For example, 90% chance, not I'm certain. Allow for continuous updating with new evidence. Plan for the possibility you're wrong. Contingency planning.
Embrace uncertainty and updates.
Combat bias blind spot. Actively seek outside input and criticism. Play devil's advocate with yourself or ask others to. List reasons why your judgment might be wrong. Practice mindfulness and self-reflection to spot your own biases.
Crucial for overcoming that fundamental barrier. Those are the key actions.
We've taken a deep dive today into the intricate dance between our brains, our confidence, and the sometimes harsh reality of our decisions. From the precise neural activity of the ACC, that internal error monitor, to the abstract mathematical models that attempt to describe our implicit calculations, like Bayesian probability, it's abundantly clear that confidence is far more than just a fleeting feeling. It's a powerful, yet often surprisingly miscalibrated, cognitive tool that shapes our lives.
Indeed. And as we've seen, the consequences of this miscalibration can range from costly personal errors, like Alex's financial setback, to broader societal impacts, influencing everything from business strategies to medical diagnoses and policy decisions.
Huge implications.
Huge. But the truly empowering truth, the core takeaway here, is that our metacognitive abilities, our capacity to think about our own thinking, can be consciously honed. This allows us to cultivate a more accurate, more adaptive internal model of our own knowledge, our capabilities, and ultimately the uncertain world around us.
So as you reflect on this deep dive, consider this. How might a truly calibrated mind reshape not just personal decisions, but societal progress as a whole? If we could systematically reduce unwarranted overconfidence in leadership, in scientific research, or in political policy making, what kind of world, what kind of future might we collectively build?
A powerful thought.
And perhaps more personally, what is just one area in your own life? It could be small, it could be significant, where you might be more sure than right, and what's your very first concrete step to find out the truth of that certainty?